Ay, bila Plume kung sa start down, need permission, I stay real with it. Lay on foundation, know it's gon' build, bro, I been biddle with it. Your homeboy check the cash out, smart contracts for the cash out. Everybody want smoke till I turn the dare, show you where the hash at. Spun the block, turns out I been black rock.
This is the Underdog Research Channel. This is the Plume Network conversation. But let's get a little thing straight before we get into it. Today, we saw Plume Network hit 75.5 million market cap. Why is that important? Because just a few days earlier, it was at a $43 million market cap. So why the drastic change? What's happening? In order to explore that conversation, we have to do more than simply talk about crypto. We have to really understand what has already occurred, because by the time you find out, you're behind. I'm going to get into some of that today, but let's get started with the conversation. This is the Plume Network Report, crypto investigation. I'm an underdog researcher, and I give real research over hype, and I give you information about what they are doing. And then we dig deep into the data to find out those hidden, revealed secrets. And then we also focus on real data. So let's get into it. Make sure you share this on your big screen TV or laptop or computer. This data is very visually intensive, and it'll help you because I put these visuals here so that you can understand the players and the connections. So make sure you do that right now and press share and like and subscribe if you like this information. The Plume Network Report, you can get it right here. If you want to be a member, scan the QR code on the left-hand side. It's for YouTube membership and a private site. I do the real world asset report. Now let's get into what has happened since we last talked. January the 21st of 2026. What did we see? We saw Chris Yin. Who is Chris Yin? Chris Yin is the co-founder of Plume Network. Now, in this post, Chris Yin said, kicking off the new year strong, integrating real-world assets with Nest Credit into a $6 billion centralized exchange. Users can now easily earn RWA yields while using Gates products, real yields, real users, real value, as mentioned in my last post, linked below this. Now, right here below, you see on January 20th, Chris Yin, the co-founder of Plume, says Plume has expanded real-world yield access into Gate ecosystem. This marks the first time a centralized exchange has integrated real-world assets yield products, scaling distribution for Nest assets on Plume and real-world assets as whole. This got about 13,000 views. So I like to do this. We're going to be going through this chronologically so that if you have missed these posts, watch the Underdog Research Channel, be a part of the Plume Report. It'll be here each week, multiple times each week, and I have exclusive content that I'll put here, and I want you to better understand what's happening here so you don't miss these details. So Gate has had added Plume. The first time ever real-world assets had this access to Gate ecosystem. Now, Gate is very large, and it is a huge way for people to get access to cryptocurrencies and a lot of other digital assets. So the co-founder is telling you in January the 21st of 2026 of this year that they have expanded their connection to Gate. So you probably want to look into these things. Everything I've mentioned is important, and I will give you my personal opinion if you want it about which one might take priority. But I think this is one that you need to pay attention to as well, because this is showing the expansion of real world assets to a major player like Gate. So let's keep going and see what else we have. This one is going to be interesting. Here we go on January 21st of 2026. I've told you about this individual before, but who is it? The water in the Plume blockchain is warm. Jamie Dimon. Our blockchain has privacy powered by EY News, Nightfall, and embedded anti-money laundering compliance you and your clients need. Plume is also an EVM and part of the world's largest blockchain developer community legislation. Now, this post, they highlight Salman Banai, who is the general counsel of Plume. Now, I want to read to you what Salman Banai said in this post that Plume Network shared. We pay attention to big companies like Ripple when their general counsel has a conversation. So this particular general counsel is not new to the block of Wall Street. They have been in the midst of regulation, not only globally, but here in the United States. They know what they're doing. They know the players. They know the business. So let's see what the general counsel of Plume, now you have a name associated with it, Salman Banai, said about this on January 21st of 2026. So an overlooked aspect of the latest version of the banking GLP Senate Banking Market Structure Bill is that it paves the road between decentralized finance, centralized finance, crypto, TradeFi, and traffic on the road goes in both directions. How? Key provisions explicitly permits banks to engage in this. Now, this is so important. We see Brian Armstrong of Coinbase having a public fight about banks and about them not wanting us as consumers to get something back, like some type of interest or returns. They're trying to control that in the banks. That's what's held up the Clarity Act. What Salman Banai is talking about here is how this connection with Plume Network, where the position is going to be integrated in such a way that even the banks and DeFi finance can have that together. It doesn't have to be a fight between these two big entities. That's what you need to see. We can't just rely on token price to understand what is next. I've always said ever since I started my platform that you have to be aware of legislation. Legislation is so important. So we have the general counsel here with Plume telling you that they're in a position that this is going to bring together both the DeFi and centralized finance together, and this has been overlooked. So that's something that I think was important. Now, going further on this post, this was really key. So the New York Stock Exchange develops a platform for tokenized trading and on-chain settlement. The bar rises for custody, compliance, and transfer mechanics. Plume has built for this shift, embedding anti-money laundering and sanction enforcement with privacy by design at both the protocol and application layer. January 21st of 2026. Now, this is huge. Let's pay attention. The New York Stock Exchange, one of the three major stock exchanges that we talk about when we talk about the stock exchanges in the United States, says that they have to do something that is integrated with anti-money laundering laws. They have shifted. So they developed a platform for tokenized assets. Wall Street has developed a platform for tokenized assets. You know that's the space that Plume Network's in. Plume is telling us here very clearly that they have built in anticipation for this shift with the anti-money laundering. And that is huge. So Plume, right here on this date, the 21st of 2026, is telling you that they had anticipated the anti-money laundering shift of the New York Stock Exchange, placing them in the primary position. So many projects will not make it as it was. Technology, 95% or more will go out of business in the blockchain space. In the first 5 years, you're going to see that happen. About 50% of them will go out of business. And long term, most of them won't make it. When you see a company thinking compliance first, when you see a company that's thinking and anticipating not for short-term price action, but they're thinking about long-term investments of those big business institutional rails, and they are anticipating putting the project in a position that it can be within regulatory compliance, that's the type of project that you want to pay attention to. Now, you can look at promises and white papers and all those things that people promise to do. But you get verified information. So far, I've seen from Plume Network where they're showing you that, hey, this might not sound sexy like you would look at when you're looking at another product that's hyping it up. You might not pay attention to AML, anti-money laundering. That's boring. But it's not boring when the money flows in and these institutional investors are looking in Wall Street for a transfer agent like Plume already is to transfer assets, secure assets, and to ensure that compliance happens all the way to the top. That's why Plume being ready for the anti-money laundering shift that is already going to be in place with these new shifts, because that's already a part of the current system we have. That's important. So that was another connection that I thought is important to bring up. Continue with January 21st of 2026, Ernst & Young. Now, I'm going to go through Ernst & Young. You may not remember this, so I want to reference this before I read this portion. I've discussed Ernst & Young before because they have a product called Nightfall, and I discussed the connection between Ernst & Young and Polygon. There is a special connection, a co-ownership of this zero knowledge proof technology suite that they have. And if you don't know what zero knowledge proof technology is, I understand that, and I've explained it in my previous videos, but it's basically a way that you can verify information without giving up data, which is the problem with all the data breaches today. Is on these centralized exchanges, the reason that you have letters sent to you because your information has been exposed, whether it's TransUnion, Equifax, Experian, whether it's Walgreens or whatever company that there is that has had data breaches, you have been a victim of Web 2 centralization. So when we think about security and privacy, if there's a way to verify information without giving up data, which there is, zero knowledge proofs is one of those mathematical ways to do that, that is good. Ernst & Young has a product called Nightfall. Now, Plume is talking about that, but I just want you to recognize that Ernst & Young has other products that they produce, but that's one that's important for tokenization. Security over these digital assets is important. This is key for your research, because if you're researching Plume and you only go to CoinMarketCap, if you don't understand when they mention names and companies, you're not really seeing behind the scene. So it's hard to understand how it can go from a $43 million market cap and all of a sudden it shoots up. You think it's something random. It's not random. You got to pay attention to the partners. You got to pay attention to these nuances that they may not give a lot of attention to, but you have to research it. So let's go to this latest post about Ernst & Young and Plume. Plume says on the January 21st, 2026, Forta Network provides network-level transaction monitoring and enforcement, while Predicate applies app-level anti-money laundering and sanction policies checks on Nest using Trim Labs. EY News Nightfall brings privacy-preserving workflows to Plume, designed for institutional RWAs that require confidentiality without sacrificing scale or compliance. Nightfall comes to Plume. Privacy meets scale. For integrating Nightfall, Plume further strengthens its position as the preferred chain for institutions. So let's talk about that. That's not just hear the shotgun blast that they gave you, because we need to understand, why is it moving? What is the connection, underdog? Here's the connection. As compliance, legal rails are coming into play, we're not talking about in the future, right now, recent. These things are the current system we have. In order for new added development and scaling and growth, and that's what we say when we say scaling, in order for tokenization to get here, in order for your cryptocurrency ultimately to go up, you need the big players to take that AUM, assets under management, the trillions of dollars like BlackRock has, the big money like Hamilton Lane has, and you need them to trust in a digital asset company not just someone who created a ERC20 token and they posted it online. It's not a real company. I'm talking about a company like Plume. You need them to have faith that the money will be secured, not the same way, better than what it has been. You got to understand that laws are being created and there's already laws on the books. So when Plume is talking about these different companies and products, Forta Network, Predicate, Trim Labs, EY News, they didn't give you the cliff notes to let you know that they're talking about 4 different areas. I'm not trying to confuse you. What I want to do is break this stuff down because we get lost in all of the announcements, all the information. And so when this thing goes up, we don't understand why it's going up. So that's what I want to do. I want you to better understand what they're saying because I'm going to follow up on these nuances. So let's talk about that. You got Forta Network, Predicate, Trim Labs, and EY News. Now, EY is Ernst & Young. Now, they say Nightfall, which I just brought up. Nightfall is one of about 5 different zero knowledge proof technology over the security layer. Now, hear me out. Forta Network provides network level transaction monitoring. So let's think about what that means. What's a network? A network would be like the Verizon network, Sprint network, right? These are networks. You can think about the phone towers. A network is what is the whole infrastructure. But there's other parts of the infrastructure. You got devices, you got phone carriers, you got all these things that create these systems. So if we apply that to digital assets, we got to look at the network of Plume Network. It's not just Plume, the company. It's the companies that they're connected to. So if you're thinking about a BlackRock who wants to utilize Plume, they got to make sure that they're secured. And not only secured, but secured a way that digital assets need to be secured, as well as in compliance. So it says that Forta Network provides network level transaction monitoring and enforcement. So now we need to look more into Forta Network. So I'll be giving more information about that. Then it says Predicate applies app level anti-money laundering. So let's talk about that. See, I told you there's a lot of information in this if you pay attention. So we got the networks like Verizon, but on your phone, you have apps. So on your phone, you can have multiple apps. These can go if you're on Android, Google Play, or iTunes, and you can see thousands of people who create apps. This is the opportunity, folks. This is what you need to think about. There is money in the applications, but those applications, if they're going to interact with the institutions, if they're going to be like a next banking app or stock trading app like Coinbase, they have to make sure that you don't commit anti-money laundering, that you create fraud. So what does Plume tell you right here with this post is important? On compliance, Plume has Forta Network, which provides network level transaction monitoring and enforcement, while Predicate applies app level anti-money laundering and sanction policies, checks on Nest using Trim Labs. So they have a product, they being Plume, called Nest. I'm not going to go into what Nest does because I've talked about that before, but this product gives people access to yield. That means you invest, you put your money in, and you get a return on your investment, kind of like a 401k, if you will. So a bank account, if you will. You get something back for putting your money in these particular nests that you choose from. Different ones have different levels of risk, different portfolios. Now, they're telling you on the network, we got security. And if you get an app that connects to our product called Nest, we have security. And we went a step further. We have that Nightfall, that zero knowledge proof technology that will prevent people from having to give out all their data for data breaches. So if you think about this as a product, and if you're doing this as a service, these institutional rails love that. They want that. They need that. You can't put billions of dollars into a company and it goes wrong and your money is lost. That can't fly. everyone's liable. You got a fiduciary responsibility. So Plume is telling you there with those things. So pay attention to that. Ernest & Young, I pulled that one out, but we also got to pull out Florida Network as well and talk about these different levels of security that's needed in order for compliance, which is important for Plume. All right, let's keep going and let's talk about what we have here. So I'm going to play a little bit for you here. We have this gentleman, which I'll bring up in a minute, who he is, introduce him to you. And he says on Plume Network on January 26, 2026, it says the opportunity for RWAs goes beyond tokenization. It's giving real assets a place to move, compose, and deploy capital at scale while earning real yield on chain. Great conversation with our head of GTM, James Friel, on where on-chain capital markets are headed. Now, look at the bottom underneath my underdog logo. There's a $1 trillion market knocking on crypto's door. Institutions don't need more protocols. They need simple products and predictable execution at scale. Those who abstract fragmentation and standardize execution will win. Those who abstract fragmentation and standardize execution will win. Think about that, folks. That's a powerful statement. So we're learning a few things here. James Friel, that's their head of strategy. He's a part of Plume Network, so you can know who he is. But he's saying that those who take away fragmentation of the system itself, and they standardize the execution in which you interact with these digital assets, tokenizations, will win. We don't need any more protocols. You need real solutions for these big players. You really want the real money? We've been dealing with personal retail investment money for all these years. Finally, we want to push past where we're at. We got to get big players. So let me pull this open for you. Let's pull in this conversation and let's see what he had to say. There's a little video. It's going to be 90 seconds of your time. Do you have 90 seconds? And here it goes. Check this out.
I think the vertical integration story that people are talking about is not like a meta or a narrative. It is a longer cycle moment in the maturation of the industry, and it's not going anywhere. It's just going to be necessary.
You're really simplifying this for all these different participants, whether it's institutions, mutual funds, also retail users. How big do you think this market is?
I mean, we obviously think it's massive, right? We think this is seriously, $1 trillion plus like opportunity. How much of that, Plume can capture will be determined, but the general mechanics that you're describing, right? Simplified products and user experience that allows people to get into more diversified savings yield opportunities. It's huge.
Simplified products that allowed people to get in diverse products. I want you to think, folks, for a second. Let me put this up here. And again, I want to remind you, folks, if you like this type of coverage, I think I'm the only one who's giving you an ongoing, continuous Plume report. If you want to be a part of that, some things are public, some things are private. Please scan the QR code right here on the left-hand side. Be a YouTube member at the analyst level. You can get this exclusive Plume reports. If you want to see the real world asset Plume report, where I compare Plume against other projects, scan the QR code on the right. That's my private site. It's not sanctioned by YouTube. It is my own site. I like that because I don't want to be influenced by being on YouTube like it is today. So make sure that you are on one of these two sites to get those insights where I go further than what you get in the public. Now, let's get back to the conversation. So this is important. I don't want to skip over anything. I'm not trying to rush you through the knowledge. You can go to Plume Network yourself and see these posts, but they're not going to break them down. They're not going to go deeper within that data. I'm a firm believer in research analysis, not technical analysis. I believe that technical analysis is great for entries and great for exits from a project. But I don't believe that the historical price value is indicating how the project itself is valuable. That's where my doctrine changes from most people. It's also a problem when people think about long-term investing. I can't give you financial advice. I can never tell you what to think, but I want to give you as much data as possible, do the work with you so that you can have better information than just going to CoinMarketCap and looking at what John Doe said today because he feels bad because he bought it at a higher price and it's down. You need to have real results. And that's why we need to look at it deeper. Now, before I go into why that's so important, again, use this as a marker. As you look at these insights you get through the Plume report, look at today's change. You need to understand in just a few days how it went from March the 1st to March the 8th and gained this huge advantage. And then don't think that it's in a bubble. There's a reason why it moved up, and it's not captured by technical analysis. It's captured by this research, folks. This is the money. This is where it's at. Now, let's get back to what he said here. Yes. So we go into this. We see again James Frail, their chief strategy officer. He's talking about you need simplicity. You think about Robinhood. It was simple. There's an app, I don't know if you recall it, called Acorn. It allows you to round up your loose change. And you remember that app? It's very useful. I used it and I got a pretty good sum from it. I got out of it because I started thinking about it. But it allows you to round up your loose change and it comes in handy. I got into crypto and I put all that loose change into crypto and I never looked back. But I'm just saying, I think that's a good way to save money. Look at the simplicity of it. You press a button, it connects you through the app to a whole marketplace. It has the anti-money laundering aspects integrated. It reports it if you need to report it. You know, at the end of the year, you have to report your capital gains to the government and make it simple for you. Look at Coinbase. What they're saying with Plume is all these developers are making protocols and it sounds good. It's so very complicated things they do. And I think we sometimes make them into superheroes. We make them to celebrities. Oh my goodness, look how smart they are. But if the average user, as well as institutional investors, can't understand it and they can't deploy it as a product for their clients, if they're institutional investors, then they're not going to use it. So Plume has this advantage because they're thinking not only of compliance first, which is key important to you. If it's not, it should be. You shouldn't think about the price action. You should be thinking about, can institutions use it? Can we build something that institutions will put money into this project? And they're already doing it in droves. But now if we think about retail investors, as well as managers of these institutional rails, they want simplicity all the way to the transactions. Now, you may not be in finance, right? You may not be in finance, but let me bring up confirmation that Plume brought up about this topic. On January the 22nd of 2026, they brought in the big gun. They quoted Larry Fink. Now, this is what Plume quoted. Leaders at BlackRock see tokenization as necessary step for financial markets. As more assets come on chain, market infrastructure for movement and composability will matter more than ever. Larry Fink, chairman and CEO of BlackRock, said the following. Let's read it together because I think it's important. They talked about simplicity. They talked about protocols, not being a protocol. They talked about compliance first. What is the big names talking about. I want to hear what they had to say. We can get the secrets from them if you just listen. Let's see what Larry Fink says. He says, the move toward tokenization is necessary. By reducing fees, it can increase democratization and allow investments to move back and forth between money market funds, equities, and bonds on a common blockchain. This brings us right back to James Friel, who the same day updated his statement that he just made, that he says, this is still believed that a range of savings type yield products will find adoption on chain. But at the moment, it seems the U.S. Treasury linked products may satisfy that audience today. The shift up the risk curve isn't worth it. The opportunity of RWAs goes beyond tokenization. It's giving real assets a place to move, compose, and deploy capital at scale while earning real yield on chain. Here's the thing, folks. I am not a finance major. I have 2 years into a doctorate degree in technology, management, and information systems. I have a master's degree in digital forensic science. I have a graduate certificate in digital forensic sciences. I have 14 certifications in cyber investigations. I have a legal studies degree undergraduate. I have an associate's degree in the same area. And with all that being said, although I might be an expert in the field of technology in my own rights and experience, unless you are in the financial market, most of us are not financial geniuses. Most of us are not financially in the same area as these individuals who do it every day. So they're saying words, terms that are normal to them. And then we have to extrapolate from that. What does it mean? What's the bottom line, underdog? What does it mean? This is what they're saying. They're saying that we need simplicity, but we need a place for these big companies, these institutional rails, not the retail investor. I need you to think about that. The retail investor is giving their money to the institutional investors. You put your money in the bank, so the bank has more money than you do. So we're talking about the JP Morgan banks. We're talking about the Wells Fargo banks. We're talking about the BlackRocks, Hampton Lanes, Blackstones. These companies, entities, whatever you want to call them, have more money than you do. They need a place to move that money, compose that money, and deploy capital, deploy money. And once they have that simply, easily, with it taking all the precautions needed for anti-money laundering, for it to be easy to integrate, that is the opportunity for real world assets. And that's what Plume is doing. Now, I'm not going to go through everything. I'm going to pick this back up, but I want to end out with this because I want to introduce someone else to you in the Plume team. Now, this is January 22nd, 2026. This is the Chief Strategy Officer, Shuki Ma. And I think it's important to understand when we see these individuals to understand this is the head of ecosystem. This is their chief strategy officer. You want to see their general counsel, their co-founder. I like putting faces and names together because that way, when you're doing your research, when you're trying to learn more, you can find those hidden secrets. So that's why I put a lot of visuals and make it easy. It takes me a long time to do this. So I want you to see that. So I want to close out for today's Plume talking about this particular person, which is their chief strategy officer. Let's see what she did. On January 22nd, 2026, we see our CSO will be speaking at Global Web3 DevCon from February 8th through 9th in Cyberport, Hong Kong during Consensus 2026 week. We're excited to sponsor this event and share our perspective on the infrastructure shaping on-chain markets. Now, Shuki, CSO of Plume. Now I need you to stop for a second. Look at the individual, listen to their title. They're the Chief Strategy Officer, and ask yourself, what is the strategy of going to Hong Kong? And what is consensus? See, we just can't look at this stuff and just skip on by. That's the problem. We're taking a glimpse at it on X and we just move on. And then and I like it because you want an active party. So I'm not complaining. I'm not following all the text that, Chris Yin puts out and Teddy puts out and James puts out and Shuki puts out. I just don't have that type of time. So I go to the main page and I'll glimpse at theirs, but I like to pay attention to what they feel is so important that they put out on the main page. And I then look in that data where they're not doing that. They're not giving you that deeper research for each post. So let's talk about this. Their Chief Strategy Officer, which is Shuki Ma, that's a little bit of information you want to learn so you can recognize her name when you're doing research. She was in Hong Kong and part of Consensus 2026. So for me, I get curious. I'm like, okay, this is January. Why are they in Hong Kong? And what's in Hong Kong? And what's Consensus 2026? Who else was there at Consensus? Did they build partnerships? Did they make connections? Of course they did. But what did they talk about? So some of the things that came up as I looked into this is, here we go. We're going further. On the 23rd, after this article, how blockchains change regulation with Plume at the center. I see the same individual, Shuki Ma, talking about Wisdom Tree in the background, 14 tokenized funds with Plume Network. See Teddy and Chris, the co-founders. We see Breaking Solana, Wisdom Tree funds. We see AXG Plume. We see the writing on the wall that is not English. So it brings you to the point where you have to think about that. We need to probably figure out what AXG is. They didn't tell you, but apparently it has some connections with the Chief Strategy Officer. So if they are in the business of strategy for the project that you invested your money in, you might want to know what their strategy is. A lot of times I see people online and they say, they're not telling us what they're doing. And I haven't heard anyone say that about Plume, because if anyone says about Plume, they're highly mistaken. Plume has a lot of daily posts, but the only bad thing about having so much is you don't know what to focus on. So what I like to do is look at all the posts, dig into the data, and find out connections, because you never know how that connection will bring it all together. And you see, like we saw today, this big run up. It's explained through the data where everyone else is guessing and they don't know what's happening. I was already aware that this was likely going to happen now. And so I was telling all the people on my platform that you should be looking at sub-cent Plume as a gift. Because if you're not understanding sub-cent Plume as a gift, then you might be in a mindset of following some uncanny person online who's looking at the price action and telling you that you shouldn't get it because they happen to go into it at 25 cents in January 2025, and to get 1 million tokens, it would have cost them $250,000. Now, I'm not saying that they spent $250,000, they being a retail investor, but somebody might have. And so they have a different perspective because it's biased by the market. And so now those individuals who've been rocking with me, who entered in a good time frame between January and February, who got the lowest Plume, 8,500 to get 1 million. Today, how you doing? You're doing pretty well. And I don't have to worry about what your price action is, because you've now had an opportunity for 8 weeks to dollar cost average in a good position. The reason I'm putting this all together, folks, is looking at these details that the chief strategy officer, where she goes, I'm paying attention to who she talks to, the partnerships. If it's not already formulated, it might be forming. So the more you learn, the better it is for you. So that's all I have for this today, folks. Again, if you like this research, show me you like the research by simply pressing like. If you want to become a member so you can get the exclusive videos that I don't post publicly, then scan the QR code right here on the left for YouTube. If you want my private site, scan the QR code on the right for the real world assets comparison. And that is the report today. So I'm going to look at who is here today so that you can interact. If I can answer any questions, as much as I know, I will give you that. So let's go to who is here today in the chat. So here we go. Let's see who is here. We start with the very top. We got Russell Cohen, Sell Your Business, longtime member. Thank you for being here today. And I'm not sure if you have seen all the Plume reports, but I'm happy that you're checking in with Underdog today. Appreciate that. Jack Thompson, shalom. Good evening to you. Only have 37,162 Plumes, still under 2 cents. That's magnificent in my opinion. I think that if you're getting Plume in general, whether it's $10 worth or sub penny Plume, you're winning in my personal opinion. I can't tell you to get it because, it's financial advice. All I can say is I took the opportunity to purchase as much as I could feasibly purchase that was reasonable underneath the 1 cent mark. I didn't get the exact bottom at that 8,500 mark. And I say 8,500 is $8,500 would have been a million Plume if you got it at the lowest between that average. But the .008, 80% of a penny, about 85% of a penny if you are really being precise. That was the lowest between those month averages. But, if you got anything under that 1 cent mark, you're doing good. If you get under 2 cents mark, you're doing good. Heck, it came out at 24 cents at its all-time high. So anything below 24 cents, in my opinion, is good. It's just about timing and about knowing what you're getting. So good for you that you're collecting. All right, we got Tony Blue 2477. What's going on, Tony? How you doing today? Loving your content, homie, especially talking about Plume. I've accumulated 800,000 tokens. Keep the updates up, man. Hey, Tony, I'm definitely going to keep the updates going on. Just make sure I'm going to put it up here for you. So if you don't already know, I put some of my research public, some of it private, some of it on my private site. I separate like that because sometimes YouTube likes to not push certain people's videos because it doesn't fall into their spectrum. And so scan the QR code right there, Tony. If you want to become a member, it's 66 cents a day for the analyst level, because that'll give you access to more insights than the other levels will. The other levels will give you first viewer at certain public videos, but that would be what you look at. $800,000 is crazy good. That's awesome. So just think about that, folks. If this is all speculation right now, so I want to make sure I make that distinction, because I cannot give you financial advice, but 800,000 tokens that Tony Blue has. So with that being said, if Plume Network travels all the way up to the 24 cents that it was at its all-time high, that Tony Blue right there is looking at having well over 6 figures, up to probably, I don't have the math, but I would assume, Tony, you'll have close to 200,000 or more dollars, if my crude math is playing me correctly. I mean, again, that's life-changing money for a lot of people. That's just going up last year to all-time high. Again, this is speculation. No, nothing can tell you what's going to go back up or not. I don't do that. I don't do price predictions. But just for purposes of conversation, we're talking about this potential, and so this is just a mile marker. That's a great price. So good for you. Congratulations on that. All right, so let's go to the next. We got V. Appreciate this. Hey, good to see you. I'm glad you're here. I've been seeing your comments online, so thank you for joining. V. It's really cool to see you here. And yeah, I'm glad I'm able to share this with you. I have so many updates. I'll be updating y'all again throughout this week about Plume because I didn't finish this, but I'm glad you're here. Thank you. We got Jack Thompson. What is the max token supply? So let's take a look. Let's see if we can find it together. Let me share screen with you. Here's Plume. All right. So let's go here together and see if we can find it. So according to CoinMarketCap, the time in which you're seeing this is 3/8/2026. It shows the max is 10 billion Plume. The total supply is 10 billion Plume. And circulating supply currently is 5.12 billion Plume. Holders are 22,446. And let's see about the token unlocks. Let's see if that'll show up on here. Yes, it will. So coming up with token unlocks, because that's going to change as more tokens unlock, it's going to change the value it needs to be for the tokens to go up in price because it kind of waters down the price. So we look like we got a few token unlocks happening. Today is March 8th of 2026. The next token unlock will be March the 20th of 2026. At that time, there will be 212 million Plume token that will be unlocked. Max supply is 2.12%. Has 4 allocations. 4 allocations are going to be core contributors, early backers, treasury, and the one I love to see the most is community and ecosystem. I actually like to see treasury too, because that shares a lot of what could happen when companies have treasuries. That's a positive sign. But look at that right there. It says core contributors have 55.55 million. That's a linear unlock. So this is when they'll have an opportunity to sell their tokens if they contributed to the project. Early backers of that unlock have 58.33 million. So they'll have an opportunity there as in the linear unlock. The treasury gets 31.94 million. And then the community, don't you love that? The community and ecosystem building on Plume, making it better. You get money. So this is not bad for anyone. If you're in there, you get 66.28 million. That's people that have staked, and I love that. I love that. So that's the answer to your question. It looks like it is max supply of 10 billion Plume, max supply. All right. So let's take this off of here. Hope that answered your question. All right. Let's see what else we have here. We have Tevin King. What's up, Underdog Crypto? What's going on? How you doing, Tevin? Good for you to be here. I'm glad that you showed up for the Plume Report. I hope that you're enjoying the conversation. Appreciate you. All right, let's see who else is here. We have the Crypto Crossroads Show. Hey, how you doing, Crypto Crossroads Show? He is here, and he has a channel as well. So if you haven't checked out Crypto Crossroads Show, he also has a channel he's covered and connected this to other projects that I think is very important, especially one that I am very favorable toward about identity. So digital identity verification and ownership, data ownership is going to be a very important thing for anything moving forward. So that's something he talks about. We have liked, thank you. I appreciate you. And make sure you take the time, please. I take a lot of time to do this for you folks. So at the very minimum, like, and if you also put this on a big screen, that helps you to view the information better. Trust me, try it out. Every time you see Underdog Research video, press share, Bluetooth, and you can share it to your most smart TVs. You can go online to, your Roku, go to YouTube, put in my channel name, and then you can play it on your TV. There's a lot of different ways. You can do it from your phone, scan it to your TV. If you see it on big screen, you'll see all these nuances that I put to make sure this stuff connects, because it's hard for people to recognize that these little nuances matter. So make sure you do that. Here's your QR code again. Just press screenshot. You can use your phone, and it'll bring you right to my site. So, or you press join in the description. All right. So we got that. We got V. Lowest I bought was at, good. Shoot. I love that. Check this out, folks. V got in at a 0.089. That's amazing. That's amazing. I believe I touched that too. I want to say I hit 87. I don't want to tell a fib, but it was between 87% of a penny and definitely 90% of a penny. And you getting in at 89 is fantastic. Again, the lowest I saw it hit was 85% of a penny, which was amazing. And we're just there temporarily. Maybe it went a little bit lower than that, but still, we're talking about nuances. And at this rate, dollar cost averaging, it brought everyone's value down, what you have to pay to get it. So that was awesome. All right. Hero Tanami got you on the big screen. Plume been moving up last few weeks. Yeah, Plume has really, I was watching it, and Hero Tanami is also, you see that little circle by his name. He's a member. So folks, make sure you do what Hero Tanami did. Press join in the description or scan a QR code, become a member. It's your money. I can't tell you what to do, but I'm encouraging you that no one else is covering this like I will, and they will not give you the in-depth insights that you can get by becoming a member. But it's a choice, and it's your own personal choice. Choose to do what you want to, but do your own research. Let me help you to do that. But like you said, got you on big screen. It has been down and going down, and I was so excited. I told my members months ago and continue to tell them that I cannot wait. I'm looking forward to it. This was in last year, at the end of last year, that it will hit sub penny. And when it hits sub penny, I predicted that. And I'll go back and find that video and put it out there for you, that when it hits sub penny, that's where I'll come buy up. So I said that months ago. It hit that within the time frame I thought it would between January and February. And now we're sitting here, and I was able to save myself $130,000 because at the time that I was looking at it the most, and I was so ready to buy a million tokens, it was 13 cents. And that would have cost about $130,000. So that's what I mean by I say that. So for it to get down to this point, just think about it. My current, this is me personally, dollar cost average, I have about 1 cent Plume. I didn't get the low 85% of a penny Plume, but all of it together, I have about 1 cent Plume. So I did pretty good because I bought it throughout the year when some prices were higher, but I took advantage of January and February. With that being said, this is the time. Throw a little something at it if you so choose. I can't give you advice, but I'm saying what I did throughout the time frame is I kept throwing about $50 there, $20 there. When I get a little extra money, I buy it there. I didn't even think about it. And it just kept adding up. And so I hit my goals. So like he said, it's been moving up fast. So all that's profit. I know that this little pump, seeing the unrealized gains, it's pretty amazing to see it. Just every little inch goes up. I'm seeing it. I'm like, whoa, this is amazing. I love that feeling. And this is a bear market. So if you're making money in a bear market, you're winning, so do what you want to do. But yeah, it has definitely been going up. Thank you for being here, Hero Tanami. All right. Any staking? And thank you, Jack Thompson. Yeah, there is staking. Plume does have staking. And you can go to plume.org. I want to make sure that's the right one, but go to their X page and then go to their website or go to CoinMarketCap and click on their website, and you can see how you can stake. Now, there's some things that are still not available for U.S. investors, so we're not lucky to do some of these things, but other people can do them, and there are other ways, but I'm not going to get anything that you shouldn't do. You have to make your own choices, but yes, there is Plume staking. All right. Let's see what we got here. We got another one, Jack Thompson, mine 02. Ooh, that is nice. Nice. I love that. So Jack Thompson got in. That's not that bad at all. Look, let me make sure I'm very clear, folks. If you got Plume, he said he got in at a little bit over 2 cents. I'm going to make it clear. Like I said before, let's go up here, folks. Let's go take a look at this. All right. Today, we saw Plume headed back. So with this individual here, Jack Thompson, he got his at 2 cents, right? So This is the way I look at it. Today, Plume went to about 1.5 cents. This individual here, Jack Thompson, using his for example, as soon as Plume touches his 2.3 cents, he breaks even. And then he's sitting pretty because he has to make a decision. Does he believe that Plume will go to 4 cents? Because if Plume would just go to 4 cents in the next year, next 2 years, then he will get 100% return on his investment. Now, right there, tell me the bank account that's going to do that for you. Right now, if you got a bond, you may be lucky to get 5%. They're talking about right now with the Clarity Act and Coinbase that we could get even 4%, 5%, get something. These banks don't want to give you anything. So the way I look at it is if Jack Thompson or you have 2 cent Plume because you saw it and you had enough research and you believed and you got into it and you think, okay, I got 2 cent Plume. Right now, the price is under 2 cents. So your average will be under 2 cents if you start buying and accumulating under 2 cents. That's just mathematical averages. Do you believe it can go to 4 cents? We don't need to be greedy. You don't need to be greedy. Just in a year, 2 years, 5 years, if it goes to 4 cents, you'll have more money than you would have had if you had invested that same amount of funds into anything else that I can think of that is traditional finance for most people to have access to. Now, sure, if you have big money, you have a hedge fund manager and you have someone that you pay 25 to 35% who manage your funds, yeah, sure, you can make probably some good money. But for most of us, if you need to do this on your own, this is the easiest way. Or unless you do this, folks, unless you go ahead and become a member and then you pay 66 cents, $20 so you can get research to know what you're about to get into. If you can call that investment, hey, call it investment expense. But my point I'm trying to make is in the next year, do you think that Plume, that's the question I ask myself, is going to go to 4 cents? If you think it's going to go to 4 cents, just think about it. If you get it at right now and it's under 2 cents, if it goes down lower, that's better for you. If it goes up to 4 cents, let's see how much you make. Let's do the math, folks. If you get 1%, if you get 1 cent Plume, that's your average because you keep buying it when it goes sub penny. If it will go back sub penny, I'm sure it will when the unlock happens. Then it goes to 4 cents. That's a 300% gain. 1 cent, 2 cent, that's 100%. 2 cent to 3 cent, 200%. 2 cents to 3 cents, 300%. Right? And so forth. So if you have $100, it'll become potentially $300. That's how I look at it. And I even look at it as a smaller amount. If I got $10 and I make $4 for every $10 I spend, how's that not winning? So that's why it's important that you know what you're getting into, you do your research, you invest in tools, and I use my platform as a tool that can help you better understand the product. So maybe there's something I tell you while you're doing this that says, you know what, I don't like that. It's not, I don't shill anything. I tell people researchable facts you can look up. Maybe I discover something that you don't like and you sell, but you're like, you know what, I got about 300% profit. I'm out of here. That's important. So I think that's a great price you got in there. So good job. All right, Jack Thompson, thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. And good job. All right. So that is everything, folks. Again, this has been the Plume Network Report, and I will be giving you the rest of the report. We're not done. This is going to be a continuation. The crypto investigation continues on Underdog Research Channel. So until next time, this has been the Underdog Research Channel. Thank you and take care.
Be the Plume goon, should start down, need permission, now I stay real with it. Lay one foundation, know it's gon' build, bro, I been biddle with it. Your homeboy check the cash out, smart contracts with a cash out. Everybody want smoke till I turn the dare, show you where the house at. Spun the block, turns out I be in Black Rock. Protocol, treasuries, bonds on me, got them padlocked. Been the best out, they can imitate. Get the best out, then you integrate. Ask Hondo, who Rambo, drew first blood, while being a great. Everybody think they starboard, I'm in orbit. Stella still, hella Stella though. I like Swift better for the corporates. I'm the enterprise, I took Nas, Hamilton on chain. Zero knowledge, always never improvise. The White House, no my name.